What's up, gentlemen? Good to see everybody back for another episode of Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. As we hail from another Victory Monday, just as we scripted it, exactly how we all saw it going down. But before we get into the particulars, throw out some things. Please give us a like, a share, and a follow. You can catch us on YouTube, all major audio podcast platforms, all major socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And, of course, you can hook us up at bgobsession.com, where membership is free and battled game chats are welcome. So, guys, yeah, that's how that was supposed to go, right? I mean, we all saw that happening. I'm going to throw something out there, and I'm just going to woo-saw down a little bit. It's something I've maintained, to try to take a book out of the old Zorn playbook and just stay medium a little bit. Look, we went to New Orleans. At the end of the day, the most important thing was coming away with a victory. Going on the road, beating an NFL team in their house is a good thing. I've seen a lot of negativity surrounding this game. Well, this, that, and the other thing. Well, guess what? If Dayton Daniels hits Terry McLaurin on two wide open bombs, that's 14 more points than we had. If a blatant pass interference call is made where Terry McLaurin's streaking down the right side and there's an underthrown ball, it's first and goal. If that and the other, if they don't get an extra 4 seconds at the end of the game, all of these things happened. Guess what? We found a way to win a football game where we absolutely were not at our best. We weren't at our worst, but we definitely weren't at our best. Sorry, John, you were about to say something.
Well, I just wanted to, I always try to do like what categories did we win in? What categories did we lose in? This
Everything and nothing.
This was another game where we pretty much, I don't want to say dominated, but we won almost every category in terms of the things that you look at. We won time of possession, huge, 41-19. We, on third down efficiency, 53% to 27%. I mean, that's a massive advantage. Total net yards, 326 to 245. Rushing yards, 137 to 69. I know Corey did a great job today talking about, Alvin Kamara, we were all terrified of that guy. We got another guy coming to town next week that we need to be terrified of. But we may not have shut him down, but we came about as close as anybody comes to shutting Alvin Kamara down. Passing yards, 226 to 205. And red zone efficiency, 67 to 50%. The only category we didn't win, just about the only category, was the penalty category. We had 9 penalties for 84 yards, and the Saints had about half of that, 4 for 36. Actually, less than half of that. So, not saying that, well, hell yeah, I am saying it. There were some bad calls that we benefited from, but man, those officials, that was some of the worst officiating I've seen in a long time.
I think that's putting it mildly. 5 seconds after a clock expires, they allow an extra point. Warren Sharp was all over him for the end of the game. The clock stopped twice, essentially. It was at least paused momentarily. Those are things that just shouldn't happen in a football game. It's a safety concern, first off. Second off, that these officials are supposed to be on top of everything. There's somebody literally watching the clock. One of the officials' job is to watch the clock. What's he doing? Where is he? What's going on? But forget the officials for a second, and let's talk about my favorite stat you were going over. 74 plays to 51. Now, that comes with TOP, of course, but 74. We ran 23 more plays than the Saints. Think about that for a second. If you go 3 and out, even if you go out 3 and out on every one of those, you're looking at 7 extra drives versus what the Saints had. So, were we efficient? Absolutely not. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. Were we dominant still? Absolutely. So, it's a big team win. Our defense came to play. Mike Sainristil, defensive rookie of the year, should definitely be in the consideration.
The other thing is, I was shocked at how many times we heard our newest member's name. Right? I mean, tell me that isn't a good debut. I don't think I heard his name one time when they weren't talking about the fact that he used to play for the Saints.
You want to hear it even
so-
less? Watch the condensed version on NFL.com. It doesn't come up at all because they're not trying to fill in the air. He was essentially he wasn't there.
It's kind of crazy when they're the ones that allowed him, to leave town. They sure showed him a lot of respect, I thought that was
They didn't even look at him.
So all right, I had to watch the game in condensed version today because my VPN decided to crap the bed yesterday, and so I missed most of it. But having watched the game through 3 times now, and reading all the negative comments, I have one question. Pretty wins count how much more than the ugly wins? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't care. My first thought yesterday when I still had the game, my first thought, we hit the red zone and it felt like which week was it? Was it week 2, week 3? Where it was the game against the Giants where we hit the red zone and it just felt like we couldn't do anything but lousy penalties. And that first drive in the red zone, 3 penalties in the red zone on the first drive alone. And I thought, oh, it's going to be one of those weeks. And then Daniels went ahead and put it in the end zone to McLaurin. And I thought, all right, maybe it won't be one of those weeks. It feels like maybe not physically so much, but mentally the team was, and I'm not discounting the referees, but we have no control over that, right? It just felt like maybe the team mentally was a little off after the bye week. Maybe still a little on bye. I don't know. We needed it. The team needed it, but maybe we lost a little mental sharpness by not having a game last week. I don't know.
Well, I think there's some members of the forum that would say it's a strength and conditioning issue. But
I think somebody last week, I don't know if it was you, Corey, but somebody on the board was talking about how, hey, the plus side of the bye week is that everyone gets a rest and gets, to get healthy. But the downside is you're going 2 weeks without like playing real football. And that's a real thing. I would think, it's like you can simulate stuff in practice, but it's not the same as having that. It's kind of like resting your starters in the last week of the NFL season. If there's nothing, if there's no impact to the win or the loss in that game, it's kind of like you got to be careful about doing that kind of thing because you might mess with your mojo, and you might have guys that come out in that first playoff game and they don't look in sync. So there might have been a little bit of that.
That's exactly. I think that's a lot of what doomed us against Dallas, right? And you start to really look at this team and this coaching staff and everybody. They're probably they've said they are very routine based. So if you get them out of their normal routine, it kind of makes things weird, So I'm wondering if that's got a lot to do with it. Al Galdi put a perfect tweet out there. I don't know if you saw this 8 hours ago. So the ultimate endorsement of the job that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are doing in year 1 with the Commanders is that we are complaining about how the team just got its 9th win. So that just sums it up perfectly for me. You know what I mean? Look, this effort that we had yesterday doesn't beat the Eagles. Okay. This effort we had yesterday doesn't win a playoff game. But guess what? We weren't playing the Eagles and we weren't in the playoffs yet. So, let's be glad that we had this effort against a team that was reeling and we were to beat them. The Chiefs just beat the lowly Vegas Raiders by 2 points, if I'm not mistaken. And they had to hold on for like a missed field goal or a last-second field goal or something stupid. So I can't be upset that we won. I can tell you that I can see the things to be concerned about. And like I said, that doesn't beat the Eagles. We don't win the playoff game if that's how we're going to play. But we weren't in the playoffs yet, and we weren't playing the Eagles. So I won't burn that post until we actually get there.
I thought it was kind of cool in the post-game conference. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I can see the pain and the anxiety on Dan Quinn's face during the game. Like that guy cannot hide his emotions to save his life. And you could just kind of see like this grim look on his face, like, come on, guys, let's not piss this away. We've done a really good job most of the day. But they asked him about Spencer Rattler. And I got to say, man, Spencer Rattler, that kid's got some talent. He's definitely got some arm talent. But they asked him about like the collapse or whatever you want to characterize it. And he said about Spencer Rattler, he said, sometimes when you have nothing to lose, you can sling it and play free. So and I just love that, because I think that's what most fans would say. You don't hear coaches say that kind of thing very often, but he's kind of like, look, man, their season is they're not going anywhere this season. He came out there wanting to show what he could do, and that's what he did. And so anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. And sometimes Dan Quinn will throw out something that you just don't hear every coach in the league say. And that kind of caught my attention.
Pretty sure I heard somebody on this podcast say that a couple days ago. If I'm remembering correctly. Look, coming into this game, Rattler was my biggest fear, and it had nothing to do with his. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback. All I said was that kid will come out and he'll play with his hair on fire.
Yep, he's athletic.
He's athletic, and he's crazy. He's kind of ballsy. He's going to take shots. He's going to take. He had no business throwing that deep ball, and that ball that went between the defenders for like a 25 or 30 yard. Any smart NFL quarterback doesn't make that throw. You know what I mean? But he did, and it worked. And it's kind of if that ball gets batted, or if Alvin Kamara doesn't secure that stupid trick play, or number of different things happen. But because that's just his play style, you know what I mean? And he plays with his hair on fire. He's out there, and he wants to prove something on every play. And when you play like that, you can be dangerous to your team and the other team.
So I want to hear from Paul, because Brother Paul, when we lost to Dallas, I think Paul was the one. He was the guy that was most close to the edge of the cliff because he was so upset by it. I know. And I kind of talked to him a little bit about that. But anyway, I know that you've been trying to making a conscious effort to kind of keep this season in perspective since then, Paul, since we're playing with found money, I think, at this point. But what was your overall take on what you saw on Sunday?
I think my overall take is summed up in my little screen caption here, which says, stop being greedy. Being greedy. We're in year one of essentially a massive rebuild, and we are starting over from scratch here. And for anybody who is, making comments about how that wasn't an impressive win, how we should have closed out the Saints and we almost let them back in the game and ultimately win, I think that those people need to reconsider. We're not in the business of style points right now. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, if I'm the Buffalo Bills, teams that are legitimately going to be teams that are vying for a Super Bowl in the end, yeah, sure. When I play the likes of the Saints and the Panthers and the Raiders and whomever, I want to be dominating those games. We're in the infancy stages of building here, and part of growing and part of becoming a dominant franchise in the NFL is learning how to win and learning how to close out games. And, right now we don't have the instincts to close out games perfectly like other franchises might be able to right now. We're still learning. We're still growing. You take wins any way you can get them at this point. And let's be fair here. This team has had multiple occasions this year as well, where, to their credit, they have been able to close out their opponent. Now, granted, they were the Panthers and the Browns and the Cardinals and
the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans, that's right. But when the opportunity presented itself in those games, we closed those teams out. And it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be pretty. You take the wins as you take them at this point in the season, and you grow and you learn from them. Again, keep things in perspective here and just know and understand that this is a process, and we have to enjoy the process, the ups and downs that come with it.
You just said something, Paul, and I think this goes back to the bye. I think without the bye, Daniels connects with McLaurin on one or two of those deep balls, right? They went a week without practice. Mental reps aren't the same as game reps. Game speed is different than practice speed. you get off of it just a little bit, and now suddenly a game of inches, those inches really count, right? And maybe if we play this game the week before the bye and the Titan game the week after the bye, we reverse the results. We blow the Saints right out of the building, and we squeak and hang on to not a particularly great Titan team, but a Titan team that played hell with Kansas or Cincinnati this weekend. So, I think it's, I don't know. I feel great about a W. I'm ready to go play Philadelphia.
So I want to go through. I've said it a couple times. We're kind of, even though it's the first year of a rebuild, we're seeing like some significant records get broken or approached. So I just wanted to run through, because every week we've got records that haven't been talked about in a long time that are getting challenged. 9-5 is our best start through 14 games since 1992. With that win, we're 10-5 all time versus the Saints. This is a big one. With 9 wins, Dan Quinn becomes the first head coach other than George Allen to win 9 or more games in their first season, which I think is pretty incredible. Washington's now tied for the 6th most points in the season. We've had 396 points this year, and that ties with the 2016 offense, and we're not done yet. 13 straight games scoring in the first quarter. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. We are 14 of 16 on 4th down attempts, which I think that tells you all you need to know about Jaden Daniels right there, because I think Jaden Daniels is why we're 14 of 16 on 4th down. Jaden has rushed for 650 yards, the only rookie quarterback to do this other than Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, and RG3. Jaden joins Cam Newton. RG3 is the only rookie to rush for over 600 yards and throw for over 3,000 yards. And then a couple final ones. With his 11th touchdown reception, Terry McLaurin is now tied with Jordan Reed and Bobby Mitchell for the 5th most in franchise history in a season. And his 36th career touchdown ties Ricky Sanders for 8th all-time in franchise history. I mean, that's – and we've talked before about how Terry hasn't exactly had like the perfect environment in which to thrive as a really great wide receiver prior to this season. So it's really exciting to see what he's doing, man. And just look at yesterday. He could have easily had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was about to say he dropped a third, and then there were 2 more shots. One of them was right off his fingertips. Like that, yeah. And the by the way, just to speak to Terry, that play Jaden Daniels made, if that's Patrick Mahomes, it's on every ESPN top 10. If it's Josh Allen, it's on every single ESPN top 10. Where he's rolling left, jukes the defender. If you watch it, he actually buckles the knees of the defensive end, and then he throws just an absolute piss missile right into the middle of the end zone. Terry McLaurin played it perfectly, watching him scramble. And what do they always say, Corey, as a coach? If your quarterback's rolling left, you you run toward your quarterback and make yourself seen. So that play was just between that one and, sorry, not to go off on another tangent, between that one and the 4th down play where Jaden Daniels just said, the 24 said, fuck it and sent it. You know what I mean? Where well, no, I'm talking about the one. It was like 4th and 1, and they read it perfectly, and he breaks it, jumps, and then like jumps over, basically somersault over a defender. The one where they were claiming it was a fumble, which was clearly not a fumble. I mean, complete forearm made contact with the ground in the grasp. So, once again, Jaden Daniels shows he's our MVP at a minimum. He should be in the conversation for MVP. I don't know that he would win it, but it should be But back to Terry, that guy has got to be doing jumping jacks. He's got to come home from practice and just be like, this is what it's supposed to be like as a professional football player, and not what he's been dealing with for the last 5 seasons. Catching passes from Mark Sanchez. And
hard to believe that just last year they had to run a play specifically for him at the very end of the last game to get the 1,000 yards, to make sure his 1,000-yard receiving streak was intact. He's 31 yards off 1,000 for the year right now with 4 games to play. Yeah, he's having a pretty good year.
Yeah, and single season receiving records. He's fifth all time. They're saying for touchdowns, right? Well, Ricky Sanders, Charlie Taylor, Jerry Smith, and Hugh Taylor are all the ones in front of him, and they all have 12. So McLaurin is one off from being tied from being all-time franchise leader for single season touchdowns, and most likely he's going to break it this year.
Yeah,
I hope he does. Yeah.
He's number 6 all-time in receiving yards for the franchise. He's going to pass Bobby Mitchell this year, most likely, right? He's number 8 in touchdowns. I think, John, you just said.
Yes.
He's probably going to pass Ricky Sanders this year. This is a guy who is going to go down as one of the greatest receivers that we have ever had, and he's played with nothing but awful quarterbacks up until this year. So, you look at Monk and Sanders and Clark. They didn't have great. Doug Williams for whatever time was fantastic. Not long, short period, but he was fantastic. Mark Rippon for 1991 looked like he was the best quarterback in the NFL. Now, was he? No, but he sure as heck looked like it. But other than that, we haven't really had a guy that can do that. And the 3 best receivers we've had in this history played in that period where they had that Williams Rippon time frame to pad their stats a little bit. Art Monk's the only one that's so far ahead of everybody else. It's tough to catch up in yards. I think he's still got 6,000 or so on Terry. So Terry's in for a long haul if he wants to take that spot, but he's probably going to be top 3 for sure when it's all said and done.
And then you add on the fact that the guy is like the spiritual center of this franchise, and he has been for quite a bit of time. I mean, the leadership that he shows and the unselfishness, and that guy always says the right thing, no matter what. And even when we would all understand if he said something a little bit less professional, he's always a consummate pro. So, yeah, I think this season, if you had any doubt about what that guy is in terms of where he's going to be in NFL history, I think this season is answering. Like, I don't think there's any doubt anymore that he's going to be
Corey, to your point, Terry McLaurin has 6,252 yards receiving. Art Monk is 12,026. But here's the kicker. Here's the thing. Art Monk had 888 receptions in 205 games, whereas McLaurin's had 446 receptions, almost exactly half, in 94 games. So he's trending. I mean, obviously, Art Monk is a forever gem of this franchise. And he is a guy that is in such rarefied air. But you look at it, I mean, if he paces and if he plays, he's 94 games, he's in his sixth season? He's in the second year.
He's had one season that wasn't 1,000 yards.
And it was his rookie year, and he missed it by like 6 or something stupid.
He had 919, I believe, his rookie year. So this is his 5th. So this is his 6th. This would be his 6th season, I think.
Right.
So
Terry McLaurin to me seems like a guy who can play 12 or 15 years in the league. He just looks like, you know what I mean? I think he can. So we're not on record watch yet, but he's the kind of guy that I could see him having the longevity that he could actually find himself up in that real conversation. You know what I mean?
Not to take us off, Terry, but I just kind of wanted to point out that I noticed a bunch of times during the game that people were equating our current players to a lot of the best players that have played. Twitter, in our chat, whatever. People were saying Brian Robinson runs like Clinton Portis. Now, is he Clinton Portis? No, but that's a pretty awesome compliment. Bobby Wagner was getting compared to London Fletcher a little bit during the broadcast.
As he should be.
As he should, and without a doubt. Terry McLaurin starting to get talked about with Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders and Art Monk with people. I mean, when you start thinking about the way people are talking about this team, that's a vibe we have not had. So again, that vibe, that mentality, that really helps grow something. So that positivity is going to help this this franchise move forward in the right direction for the next several years. But people are buying in, even if they get mad and they say stupid things and they complain and they whine. It's because I think a lot of the whining and complaining personally is because they want it so bad because
the bar's elevated, man. The bar that was down here is way up here now, and
they're afraid. They're afraid that we're not going to come back because they think this is fool's gold because they've seen this movie before where it's fool's gold. But I don't think that's the truth. I think this team's actually built to last for long term. But Jaden Daniels has to be healthy. That's the big thing, and I think he will be. He's protecting himself, but that's a big one. If he goes RG3, we might be belly up. But again, new ownership, different situation. Josh Harris changes the math. And again, in my thread today, I kind of talked about how Ron Rivera is kind of a scapegoat. Look, I think he didn't coach well. I think he made a lot of mistakes. I think that he was not a great coach for us. But that guy got thrust into a situation where he had no shot. I mean, none. The name was changing. Dan Snyder disappeared. Dan Snyder was changing, was off in a yacht, who knows where forever. Dan Snyder wanted Carson Wentz from what I remember hearing. So, did Rivera do a great job? No. Do I think Rivera would have gotten this team where it is now? No. But I think the ultimate part of that is that he didn't have a chance. And now Josh Harris, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and crew do, and they're taking advantage of it, and it's fantastic.
So I wanted to mention one other thing because I've kind of been not waiting to see it happen, but wondering if it would happen. And I want to talk about Jaden Daniels just for a second before we move on to like the upcoming game. He got pressured a ton in that game. He got sacked 8 times, I think. Mm-hmm. There were not many downs, and I don't know whether it was Dieter at center or whether. I mean, I just don't think our offensive line had their best game, and I think the Saints have a pretty good pass rush, but he was under pressure as much as I've seen him this year in that game, and I think a lot of the running. He was our leading rusher, he was the leading rusher in the game with Alvin Kamara in the mix. He outrushed Alvin Kamara. I think a lot of that was by necessity because there was just so much pressure. But he did not turn the ball over. And that's really what I wanted to point out is the fact that, I think they attributed him to one fumble that we recovered or whatever. I think they did it. I think they did credit him with a fumble. But the guy does not throw the ball up for grabs and make stupid mistakes, even when he's got, that kind of pressure coming at him. And I just think that's incredible for a rookie quarterback because what you expect to see is what you kind of saw with Haener out there, right? Which is, I'm just getting rid of the ball, and whether or not it's a good decision or not, I'm just putting it up for grabs. And you just don't see him do that. And I think we take it for granted, man. Because this kid is, I mean, you can say, I know early in the season people were like, well, he's not letting the ball go. He's like afraid to take a chance. But I mean, the guy has 6 interceptions on the year, which is nothing. In an NFL season. So I don't know if that jumped out at any of you guys, but I thought in that game, especially an interception could have cost us the game. And he did not throw that interception despite all the pressure.
That, John, combined with one other number, 80%. He got sacked 8 times and still had an 80% completion percentage. For those of you who might not have caught it on Twitter, that is only the 5th time in NFL history that a player has had 4 games in the same season with a greater than 80% completion percentage, minimum 20 attempts. The other 4 guys, Drew Brees in 2018, Kirk Cousins in 2019, Trevor Lawrence in 2022, and Dak Prescott in 2023. And he still has 4 games left to play. I don't want to
70% on the season right now.
Yeah, but I mean, the kid could very easily be stand alone as the only guy. He's also the only rookie on that list, by the way, in case you were, trying to do draft numbers in your head. Nobody else on that list was a rookie when they did it. So he's the only rookie to ever do that. And by the end of the season, he could be the only guy to do 5 games in a season. That's just mind-boggling, especially when you consider the amount of pressure he was under yesterday to still have an 80% completion percentage running for your life. We got something.
No, not only that, he led the team in rushing.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, one thing we haven't touched on is that we were going up against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, and we couldn't do anything. Like, and you know what I mean? I'm not trying to pile on, but they had a game plan. They executed their game plan. Struggle be real. It is what it is. But anyways,
I think yesterday speaks to just how important Tyler Biotic is to this offensive line unit. I really do. I think his ability to help Daniels with coverage calling at the line, with blocking schemes at the line, and his ability to anchor that dead center. I had a sinking feeling when I pulled up the inactive list and Biotic was at the top of it. Man, I think he's incredibly important to this offense.
What do you guys think? This is something that we have not talked about. It might be the only thing we haven't talked about in the last 17 pods. What do you guys? And the reason I bring it up is because one of the big bitches about Ron Rivera was in-game management, like decision-making in-game, which is a big part of being a head coach. What do you guys think about Dan Quinn's, like, the calls that he's making, when to go for it, when not to go for it? Because there were a couple in this game that I've heard a lot of chatter about. One of them was at the end of the first half when we're deep in the end of the field. When I expected us to just do kneel downs, they seemed to be going for it, trying to make something happen there. And then I guess going for the field goal with a practice squad kicker out at 54 yards away. Some people had an issue with that. I didn't have an issue with it, but some people did. But what do you guys think just in general about Dan Quinn's, how he's managing game time decisions in the moment? I'm looking at you, Corey, because I know you got some thoughts on that.
Here's my opinion. Do I agree with all the decisions he makes? No. But when I'm on the sidelines and I make decisions, people aren't going to agree with everything I do either. What I look for in a head coach is when they make those decisions, they believe in them and they stand by them and they don't hesitate to do it. Dan Quinn did it without hesitation. Whether we agree, disagree, whatever, we're not on the sidelines. We don't know the vibe. We don't know what those guys are feeling on the sideline. He is. He made a decision based on what's going on that sideline and what's going on in the game. And while I don't necessarily agree with it, I'm all for it because he believed in it. So when I have issues with those kinds of decisions that a coach makes, it's more so because you can see that they're hesitant to do it. They hesitate. You can see it on their face that they're like, yeah, let's go. That's not confidence. That's not inspiring anything. And that's a bad decision. Anytime you got to overthink like that, you're hurting your team. You're hurting your chances. It doesn't look good. But when you commit and you do it, I might not agree, but I like it. Let's do it. Go for it.
I gotta agree. And look, the field goal, people were going to get frustrated with the field goal attempt. Guess what? 54 yards. If you have any belief he can make that, are you going to punt from your own 36? No. Are you going to go for it on 4th and 16? No. You know what I mean? Like, essentially, you hit that field goal, and the game's over. It's a 2-score game now with however much time there was. Meanwhile, he's also looking at the vibe. Do you think he didn't realize the vibe of the game? He felt all of it. You know what I mean? So sometimes, and Corey, you probably can speak to this as a coach. Sometimes you got to kind of just put your balls out there and make a damn play because you've got to reset the momentum of the other team. And you know that whether you punt this ball, you kick the field. What's the difference between a missed field goal and a touchback? Right?
16 yards.
16 yards?
Something like that.
You're right. So then is it risk versus reward? Like the odds that you do hit this and then you kick a field and then you're up by 10 and nobody's talking about it. Meanwhile, this entire game you've watched Terry McLaurin, and I hate to go back to it, but it's the truth. Terry McLaurin drop an easy walk-in touchdown down the right seam, and it happens. But the ball hit him in the hands, and it bounced all over the place. You've watched multiple missed calls. You don't want to leave this to chance if you can avoid it. So you get aggressive. You get semi-aggressive in a risky situation. John, as far as your point, I'm fine with them doing that. We were at the 1 yard line. You know what I mean? Before halftime, get out from under the. And if somebody pops one, somebody pops one. Weird shit happens on the NFL all the time.
Real quick, Derek, just to kind of go back to what you were just saying, when making that call in that spot doesn't just affect this game, right? So when you're going for it in a situation where you said, I'm putting my kicker out there, we're going to kick this 54-yard field goal, and not hesitating to do it, that sends the vibe to your team that you have confidence in your special teams.
Yes, thank you, Corey.
So
I was going to say the same damn thing. I would rather lose with a coach that believes in his players and doesn't say like, "Oh, this guy's a scrub. I don't trust him." I think that's so important, man. Because Dan Quinn, the one thing you can say about him is that guy believes. He exudes. Every post game conference you ever watch, or every post game locker room scene you see with him, it's all about we did this together. All of us together. Everyone matters. I believe in everyone in this room. It's the same consistent message, and that's why I didn't mind that call because, yeah, the guy is not our first string kicker. Hell, we don't have a first string kicker, really. But I mean, he put him out there. He's like, "You're a professional. I believe in you. Go out there." And on the kick, I don't think. To me, it looked like it was not a good snap. I didn't feel like he.
It wasn't. It did a little skitter, but he got but Way got the snap down. He got it down. But beyond that,
I hate that though. I hate when people say that. Not you, Derek, but because everyone knows kicking is all about timing, and if you throw off the timing of, and I don't care if it's Justin Tucker out there, if you f up the snap, it has an effect on the kicker, man. It just does, whether that's fair or not. I heard the announcer say, "Yeah, he got it down. He should have hit that." Well, that's easy for you to say.
It wasn't a bad miss either. They showed the end zone view of it. The ball was long enough. And he was, I hesitate to use the phrase wide right because it's got, it lives in infamy, right? Thanks to Buffalo. But I mean, it was maybe a yard right of the upright. You take everything into account. This kid was walking the street 2 weeks ago. I didn't think it was a bad attempt. And I wasn't upset at the call from Quinn either.
And to go back to your point, John, you said Dan Quinn believes in his players, and he's also shown that if he can't believe in you, you're not going to be here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why Jamin Davis and Emmanuel Forbes are playing for other teams right now. There's a reason why Benjamin St. Juste had 3 snaps this game.
Oh, and he got a holding penalty in one of them, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of things that Dan Quinn has proven that, look, I'm going to believe in you, but you need to give me a reason to believe in you.
Right.
Because if not, I'm going to
it's not right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not a false sense of, oh, you're wearing my colors, so I got your back. No, buddy. You're going to be a contributor, and you're going to do it, and I've got your back 100%.
Yeah. So
speaking of that, I guess we can transition quick to the upcoming opponent that looms a little bit larger than our most recent one. I don't know that I have an easy answer for this. I'm not a huge bit of confident, but guess what? We're playing another division opponent. Our backs are against the wall. We have to win to maintain our playoff structure. Guess I have more hard shit with good people. Guess what? Weird shit with good people happens too on the NFL field, and bad teams beat good teams all the time, and good teams beat great teams all the time. So it's going to be an interesting upcoming week. I'm curious to see what your guys' vibe is on that.
Saquon
that good, huh?
Scares me. I'll tell you that. But other than that, look, I know the Eagles are good, and I know they have a great record. But how many times do we have to see that any given week anything can happen to any team? The Chiefs almost lost to the Panthers. We almost lost to the Saints. You go through the list, and
we did lose to the Cowboys,
and we did lose, right? But you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and outside of Saquon Barkley, have they really been that impressive? I mean, now Marcus Lattimore changes the math in that game, by the way. Him being able to go against AJ Brown and not have Emmanuel Forbes cover Brown for an entire game is a major difference, right? Devonta Smith is good, but hey, Mikey's going to be following him a little bit, right? So when you look at it, the matchup's much better now than it used to be. By the way, Frankie Louvu, who has been our best defensive player all season, had 0 tackles. He went negative on the stat sheet yesterday, basically. He didn't do anything.
I noticed that.
Wow.
You come through and you watch this team when they're firing on all cylinders, and why can't we beat Philadelphia? Now, do I think Philadelphia is a better team? Yes. Do I think Philadelphia has more pieces than us? Yes. Do I think Philadelphia should win this game? Yes. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that we can go in there and win a football game and do it convincingly even.
Go in there. They're coming here, brother.
Well, I meant in the field. I didn't mean necessarily
yeah.
Philadelphia. Going to the link is like prison. I hate going there.
So if you just look at like Corey was saying, if you just look at the numbers, this is not a favorable matchup. But it does kind of set up a little bit as a trap game for Philadelphia. It does and it doesn't, and I'll explain that. They've won 10 straight. They haven't lost since week 4 at the Bucs. That was a long time ago. That was their only road loss of the season. And by the way, they're playing on the road on Sunday. They've only lost 1 way back in week 4. However, the one thing that I think that will motivate them is I believe that we still could win the division. If they lose out and we win out, because they play 3 NFC East opponents to close the season, they would have 3 division losses and we would have 2. And that's the tiebreaker after record. So I know that's unlikely. I'm not in any way suggesting that's going to happen, but I think the division has not been settled yet. So I think that's going to motivate them. When you look at their stats, they're like, well, they have the top rated rushing offense. They're first in yards. Saquon Barkley's having an insane year. He's got like almost 1,700 yards, averaging 5.9 yards a rush, 121 yards a game average. So he's having a monster year. And their defense is first in yards, first in points allowed. We are 11th and 16th in those categories. We're pretty close to them offensively as far as that goes. But on the defensive side of the ball, we're outmatched. But again, like Corey said, you know what, man? It's a division game. We say it over and over and over again because it's true. Anything can happen in a division game. Anybody in the NFC can beat anybody else on a given Sunday. We've seen it over and over again. So, and we haven't played a complete game. I don't know. You guys tell me, what was the most complete game we've had this season? I don't know what that would be, but I don't feel like we've had a game where everything just clicked and we hit on
against
Tennessee
probably. And that wasn't too long ago, I don't believe, right?
Or the bye.
No.
So anyway, I'm with Corey. I think we have a gambler's chance in this one.
Did any of you guys watch Philadelphia and Pittsburgh the other night?
Mm-hmm.
Last night?
I did not.
Yeah. I absolutely agree that on any given Sunday, right? There are surprises every single week in the NFL, and we could totally surprise the world. And yes, Lattimore changes the dynamic somewhat. All Brown did was put up 111 yards and a touchdown against Joey Porter Jr. That's all he did, right? Philadelphia was never out of control against a really good Pittsburgh team. Granted, a Pittsburgh team we should have beaten. And we played Philadelphia really, really well for 4 quarters in Philadelphia. Another thing, Philadelphia is one of the healthiest teams in the NFL, right? They're not losing bodies at the moment. I think, quite frankly, they're probably the healthiest and most talented team in the NFC right now, and maybe the healthiest, most talented team in the NFL at the moment.
I think they're Super Bowl. I mean, to me, they'd be up there with Super Bowl favorites right now. I don't know how you could not say that.
Did you guys
home field advantage may determine whether they or the Lions are favored in the NFC Championship game, assuming they both get there.
So I have a crazy stat. I just got a point. And look, believe me, I fucking hate the Eagles. You'll never. But yesterday's game is the definition of a grinder. Okay, so the second half of yesterday's game against the Steelers consisted of 5 drives for the whole half. Philly had, well, here, I'll start with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had 2 drives that went, the first one, 2 minutes and 2 seconds and resulted in a fumble. The second drive, they didn't touch the ball again until the fourth quarter. Lasted 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and they punted. Philly had drives of 7 minutes and 8 seconds, 6 minutes and 33 seconds, and 10 minutes and 29 seconds, and they ended up kneeling to end the game.
Mm-hmm. It was brutal. It was absolutely. It looked like an NFC East football game. You really want to know the truth? An old school NFC East football game. And if the Eagles had just been wearing different color uniforms, I probably would have really enjoyed it. But it was the Eagles, so it was very difficult to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Eagles are loaded. I mean, I don't know how you look at that roster and aren't impressed by what they have. Man, they got Jahan Dotson, so you know they're really good. But at the end of the day, you know, everybody's human. And I'm not sitting here and saying I'd bet on the Commanders winning that game. In fact, the reason I keep saying we need to win 3 of the last 4 starting last week was because I am looking at this Philly game as probably one we won't win.
Right.
But I think it's possible. We played them tough without Lattimore. Yes, Philadelphia can grind it out. Yes, A.J. Brown can do damage, without a doubt. But again, Lattimore is going to make some hesitation there. And if Louvu can get home and get to Hurts and make Hurts think, that's the key. If you get Hurts off balance, he falls apart. We got to get home. Now, this is where having a pass rush would be incredible. And we didn't have much of a pass rush yesterday, in my opinion, which is what kind of hurt us against 2 rookie, essentially, quarterbacks. He in her second year, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance, but am I going to sit here and bang on the drum from the mountaintop that we're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles next week? Absolutely not. I won't be the one doing that. But I really think it could happen.
But to your point, nor should we. They are a Super Bowl contender, and I bring it back to what we talked about to begin this podcast, and what Paul talked about at length when we were talking about beating this. We are to expect us. Obviously, we're all 5 going to be rooting like absolute hell on Sunday afternoon to say we want to win. We want to win. We believe we can. Of course that. But at the same time, we have in reality no right to even be in the conversation with the Eagles. But we're there, okay? Like, so I you know what I mean? I try to bring it back to that fact and remember that. We should not, like, they're established. They're a Super Bowl contender. They're a playoff favorite. They are in competition for the 1 seed against one of the most dominant football teams that the NFC has seen in years. So, but I will say that if y'all remember correctly, Saquon Barkley was held to almost nothing for 53 and a half of that 60-minute game the last time we played them. And then he went absolutely bananas in the last 2 drives of the game. And it was still a 1-score game. And it was on their turf. So,
one thing I wanted to point out was I was blown away. I was looking at Jalen Hurts' 2024 stats and Jaden's 2024 stats. They're having an identical year. Jalen Hurts has thrown for 18 touchdowns. Jaden's thrown for 17. Jalen is completing almost 70% of his completions. Jaden is completing 70.5% of his passes. Jalen has thrown 5 picks. Jaden has thrown 6. Jalen has been sacked 38 times. Jaden has been sacked 37 times. Jalen is averaging 8.1 yards per pass. Jaden is averaging 7.7. And Jaden is outrushing Hurts by about 75 yards on the season, but Hurts has almost twice as many touchdowns. But it's kind of shocking that one of the better quarterbacks in the league that's been to the Super Bowl in Hurts and a rookie are almost identical on paper. So I don't know what that means, but I don't think should be intimidated by who's under center when we're facing the Eagles. It might be, maybe we should be worried about their running back, but we're every bit as equally set up under center as they are.
You skipped another one of the mirror stats. Hurts has been sacked 38 times. Jaden's been sacked 37 times.
Yep.
So, they are mirror images of one another, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Paul, how do you like our chances, man?
If it makes you guys feel any better, if you think back to a few weeks ago when
Paul, anytime you talk, it makes me feel better, brother.
If it makes you guys feel any better, if you think back a couple weeks ago when the Panthers walked into Philadelphia, I watched like
the Panthers
most of the second half of that game, and quite honestly, Carolina was within a half an inch, and I say a half an inch because their quarterback missed Xavier Leggett on a deep pass, which would have been a touchdown in the final 40 seconds or so. They were within inches of beating that team. I mean, we talk about the missed opportunities to McLaurin yesterday. It was that type of play. It was a guaranteed home run, touchdown, game-winning touchdown. Anything is possible week to week in this league. And the one thing that I keep reminding myself about is this team has defied logic all season long. I think a lot of credit needs to be given to this coaching staff. When we talk about coaching up a team, this coaching staff has done as good a job as any other in the league in terms of getting the most out of the cards that they've been dealt with. So again, the team should not be intimidated going up against Philadelphia. Do I necessarily think we're going to win? I don't know. But what I do know is that we need to limit the big plays. New Orleans in the second half yesterday had 9 plays that were 12 yards or more in the second half, and that essentially kept them in the game. So, I mean, if we can limit those big play opportunities for Philadelphia, we're going to give ourselves a chance.
So we're probably going to be without Zach Ertz and Shin because both those guys are in the concussion protocol. On the positive side, I assume it sounds like Biotic just had like the flu or something. So I expect he'll be back, which would be a huge thing. And then supposedly Shane Gonzalez, probably the best kicker we have of the guys that we've seen this year. We'll probably have him back, which is a plus if it's a close game. But anyway, I think it is what it is, right? At this time of the year, it's who's available and put them out there and hope for the best.
So, gentlemen, I guess now we can look into predictions if we even want to put it on paper. I think we're all going to be. I think it's going to be a similar vibe between the 5 of us, but I think we all kind of share that level of hope. So, Corey, I'll throw it at you. What do you see happening on Sunday, brother?
Look, I think I'm going to say, and I'm just going to say it, 28-24, Commanders win.
I love it.
Oh, all right.
So then, how do we get there? What do you think?
We're going to get lucky. I mean, sometimes it's going to be lucky to good. We're going to get some luck on our side. Maybe even a few blown calls. I don't think we're going to just outright beat them, but I think this is a trap game. John said it earlier. And I think it's a very good trap game vibe for Philadelphia. They're not expecting us to come in there and beat them. They're on a roll. We're just the Washington Commanders. We're nothing special. No, I'm not saying they're going to take us lightly. They won't. But there's always that mentality. We're at home. We just had a tough game. This team seems to bounce back after tough games and play hard and make something happen. So, am I kind of feeling a little good about our 9-5 record and want to get 10 wins right now? Sure. But I really do believe in what we're doing. And while I don't think we're a better team than Philadelphia, and I think Philadelphia is going to be in it longer than us, and I think Philadelphia is going to be a contender for the NFC and maybe even the Super Bowl, I think you don't have to be better than the other team every day. You have to be better than them on one day. And I think we can do it. And I think Jaden's going to be up for that challenge.
I love it. I freaking love it. All right. Well, then I won't subject the other three of you to follow him. I'll do it myself. I hate to be the wet blanket here. I can't put myself out there and say, because like I said before, I think we'll be in the game. I think we will be competitive. I think we have every right to believe we'll be competitive. I think they are on a level above us, but I think the division factor should let everybody have a level of expectation that we're going to be able to compete. We played really well against them the first time we matched up. Now they're in our house, which for the first time in how many years have we actually had a home field advantage-ish? So ultimately, I think we do fall. Ultimately, oh my goodness. I'm going to say the opposite. 28-24 Philly. And it hurts my heart to predict that because I really don't want that to happen. Brother Paul, what you got?
I'm just going to come out and say Philadelphia 27, Washington 23. I think we're going to compete with them. We're not going to back down to these guys. But ultimately, they're a stronger team. This is going to be the one game this year that I am not going to be able to watch. Not going to be available to watch it. Hoping for the best, but again, I think we're just going up against one of the top teams in the league, and I think it's just going to be a little bit too much for this team at this point in the season and at this point in our growth process.
Is that happenstance, Paul, or are you making yourself unavailable to watch it?
Well, I'm going to be in Mexico, so
okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
in Mexico.
Yeah.
Would you get tired? You get tired of Canada? You figured you'd go to the polar opposite of that and just go to Mexico?
Yes, I need a place to be able to play tennis outdoors.
Oh, there you go.
Totally fair, man. Totally. The game will be on a bar somewhere in Mexico.
I might get in trouble if I run away from my family and watch it, though.
Just tell them you're
all right,
Canadian.
brother Bob. What you got?
Oh, I think this game is very, very tight all the way into the fourth quarter. I think Philadelphia wins on a late field goal. I'm going to call it 31-28. I think Lattimore gets his first interception in burgundy and gold because I think Hurts can't help but try and go to his boy AJ, and Lattimore has a chance at one. I think we play a really good football game, and I think we scare Philadelphia really good. But at the end of the day, I think Philadelphia has more talent than we do. I mean, we've got McLaurin, but they've got two guys that can play like that. Robinson's good, but he's not Barkley. I mean, we can just go down the roster, right? Philadelphia's been drafting really, really well and signing great free agents for the last half decade or longer. And while I'm not convinced that Sirianni is all that in a bag of chips, Nick Fangio's for real. What's his face? Kellen Moore calls a great game. I just feel like there's too much. There's too much. So 31-28.
I feel like this blind pig graphic up here on the right is purposely blocking me.
It had Derek a few minutes ago, Corey. Don't feel bad.
Me just long enough to pour another drink.
Just because I picked the Commanders, I'm the blind pig now, guys. What's up with that?
All right. Well, I'm going to save you, Corey, because all these guys are wrong. This is an NFC East matchup. It doesn't matter whether they're a better team. Better teams lose every fucking weekend in the NFL. They just do. Quinn and company, they know Philadelphia better than Ron Rivera knew Philadelphia. Trust me. And they know exactly what to do. That's why it was close the first matchup, even though they were a far superior team then too. And now we've got some games under our belt. We're gonna beat them at home. I think Corey pointed out that we tend to have sketch performances, and then that we'll turn around the next week and we will kick some ass. And I think it's going to happen again. We're going to have 4 turnovers in this game, and the last one is going to be a forced fumble on the golden child, aka Saquon Barkley, to stop the game-winning drive. We're going to win by defense, and our defense, man. I think we're sleeping on our defense all season long. They've outperformed expectations. We are the 11th ranked defense in yards in the NFL, and we were worried about even having a competent defense in the preseason. So I think the defense is going to step up again, and I think Jaden's going to have the game of the year for him so far, and we're going to beat them 33-31 in a game that none of us thought that most of us didn't think they could win.
33-31.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah,
I think we all would say
speak to a defensive juggernaut there. Yeah, like everybody's sleeping on the Washington defense. Philly's going to put up 31 points.
It's all relative, Bob.
That's true. All right, that's fair.
Well, fellas, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back again next week, hopefully celebrating another Victory Monday. But as we wrap this thing up, I will say I have to be so happy that we are where we are. I can't double down on it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say it enough. Like, I really hope people put it into perspective, and we've talked about it a lot. But keep it in perspective where we are going into next offseason with less holes at pivotal positions than we've had in a long damn time. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about drafting our second best wide receiver. Like, when was the last? We're talking about drafting our future right tackle. We're talking about drafting a lot of things and finding a guy in free agency or all of these things. So looking at the landscape of the NFL, I hope everybody can keep it in perspective and really understand where we're at as a team.
Hey, when was the last time we were 9 days from Christmas and could still had the chance at winning 12 games in a season?
Yeah.
Well, up until recently, right? We haven't even won in December up until last 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're right.
And we haven't lost in December, right? Not yet.
Undefeated in December so far. That's the other reason we're going to beat Philadelphia.
There you go.
Well, to your point, Bob, when was the last time we were in December and it wasn't 7 in a row or we don't go? You know what I mean? Or one of those mantras that you put on a T-shirt. Like, no, just stay the course. Just keep playing well. You know, we control our own destiny, but we don't have to pull out of a rabbit out of the hat and beat an undefeated Pittsburgh team or an undefeated Eagles team or some stupid nonsense. It's fun. So, gentlemen, as always, it's been a pleasure. If you're out there listening and watching, hook us up with a like, a share, a follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get us on all audio platforms. Subscriptions are awesome. And of course, come find us at bgobsession.com. We welcome all new members. We've had a lot of them lately. And, free membership, a lot of cool contests. And we like to have a lot of fun over there. So, boys, as we say every week, I'll sign us off by saying that'll do, pigs. That'll do.